your Friday, 66 degrees downtown Indianapolis, similar temperatures across central Indiana. President Trump, as we've been reporting this morning, will hear his options today about whether and how to punish Iran for the attack on Saudi Arabia's oil industry. The options seem to range from doing nothing to ordering airstrikes inside Iran. We wanted Greg Ballard's take on all of this. The former mayor of Indianapolis is a former Marine officer, and he's also become a fierce advocate for weaning America off foreign oil. We've talked with him about his book, Less Oil or More Caskets. This seems like the kind of scenario you warn about in that book.
Absolutely. This is looking very familiar to me from almost 30 years ago.
Tell me about it.
When the Gulf War run-up, when we have a violent incident regarding the global oil production, rhetoric like it's an act of war, this is someplace else. People are asking why we're doing that. I know why we're doing it, but Americans rightly are asking why are we involved in this again. But next thing you knew, 30 years ago, 500,000 Americans were over there throwing Saddam Hussein out. That's what this looks like to me. I hope we don't go in that direction, but that's what this looks like to me, because this is the same pattern that we've been doing for almost 45 years over there now.
There are several sort of areas of expertise I can tap. I want to hear from the Lieutenant Colonel now. Is there a clear and obvious answer to this situation, this one that's right in front of us? What should happen?
Well, I'm hoping that diplomacy reigns, because unlike back in 1990-91, Iran is not as isolated as Saddam Hussein's Iraq was. And so we have to be very careful about this. Iran still has a lot of friends right now, including China and Russia, and Europe is kind of leaning on their side with the JCPOA, the agreement that we pulled out of. So we have to be very careful that we are not the ones that are going to be isolated in this situation.
This is not at all to minimize the first Gulf War, but it was a simpler affair in a way because of exactly what you talked about. We could win that one with might and ferocity. This seems, to a non-expert, to be a much more complicated picture.
I think it is right now, because the players are different, the sides are different, if you will, and we have to be very careful in how we approach this. The last thing I want to do is go back over there in force. Now, as I've said before, we're over there right now anyway.
Right.
People don't know that we spend $80 billion annually to protect the global oil supply routes and the infrastructure. I mean, we do that annually. We've been doing that sort of thing for 45 years. But I don't want another run-up to a larger conflict. I also don't want to spend the $81 billion, and there's ways we can mitigate that and not do that in the future. But we certainly don't want to put our troops over there again, because this would just be another Gulf War. And the players are different, completely different. We were able to push aside our enemies at the time, if you want to call them that, our adversaries, to allow us to go in and do what we had to do. This time that probably won't happen.
Nobody's rolling over or walking away quietly on that. What does that war look like if it happens? And both sides have talked about it as a possibility.
I know, and the good thing is that a lot of this is rhetoric and trumped up rhetoric, no pun intended. But
you sure?
So I don't want anybody to think that, but I have trouble imagining us all going over there once again. 500,000 American troops over there once again. President Trump seems to like airstrikes quite a bit, and it's a little bit less risk. Maybe it sends a signal. But again, you don't know what the reaction is going to be afterwards. So you can do that and say, we're the big guy here, but the reaction might be completely different. And so I think talking through this, minimal action is probably the way to go.
So again, the book is Less Oil or More Caskets. Pretty clear decision that Greg Ballard contends can be made very, very quickly in America. It's a fascinating read, still available on Amazon bookstores right now, and certainly encourage everybody to give it a peek, because it makes a case that's tough to make, even to members of your own party, maybe especially so, but it gets the conversation moving in that direction, and at least worth a read. So thank you for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's 8:16 right now. Randy, still in the mid-60s around